Tesla just got snubbed out of reopening its factory right here in California, and they have immediately filed a lawsuit against the Alameda County where the factory is located. And Elon Musk also has threatened to move Tesla headquarters and even the factory itself out of California. We've also learned how to pronounce Elon's new baby's name while he got one of the biggest paydays of his life, and of course many other exciting Tesla news. Then we believe that we now know what the production version of the Lucid Air looks like. One of the biggest Chinese electric car makers is heading to Europe. Audi's cheapest electric car, the end of the era of BMW's i8 program, and Dieselgate is back in the news. All of this is coming up next. Welcome to E4 Electric, your #1 source of electric car news. If this is your first time here, all you have to do is click on that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything moving forward. Now, on with the news. Tesla was ready to reopen its factory on Friday in Fremont, California, as the state started to ease some of the restrictions on the shelter-in-place order. The employees were ready to show up, shine their shoes, brought their lunch boxes, were really happy to get away from homeschooling their kids. However, the county, the Alameda County, where the factory is located, said not so fast. The county officials did not really specify why they decided to keep the factory closed, despite the fact that the guidelines from the state on easing the restrictions did include manufacturing. The factory has been closed for 7 weeks and will definitely affect the company's Q2 numbers. It did not affect the Q1 numbers very much because it was only closed for the last week of the first quarter. As you can imagine, Elon Musk wasn't very happy with this decision, and of course, as you can imagine, he took it to Twitter. He mentioned that Tesla would be filing a lawsuit, which they did a few hours later, against the Alameda County, but he also threatened to move Tesla out of California to Texas or Nevada. Well, first of all, it looks like Elon is favoring Texas as the location for Tesla's next factory, where they will be making the Cybertruck. However, it is a bit of an odd choice for Tesla's new headquarters because, yes, on one hand, California is definitely a tough state to do business for small or big companies, but on the other hand, Texas is kind of known for its big oil and climate deniers, so that's a bit of a toss-up. However, Nevada could be a good choice for Tesla's next headquarters, but if we're talking about factory, if we're talking about moving a factory, there's not enough U-Haul trucks in the world, so I think that will have to stay in California. As I mentioned earlier, the Alameda County officials did not give any specific reasons why they thought that the factory could not reopen, which makes me wonder, is this the payback for everything that Elon has been tweeting and for the fact that Tesla has refused to shut down its factory right after shelter-in-place order and it took him 5 days to shut it down? To answer that question, I turn to Eli Burden, one of our contributors and the president of My Tesla Adventure. All right, Eli, so it looks like it's up to the Alameda County on whether or not to allow Tesla to actually start production. But do you think that because of how many issues they've had with Tesla trying to close them down last month, that's actually at the end of March, and with all the public comments that Elon made about the shelter-in-place order, including calling it, fascist, do you think it's just the way how the officials are now trying to? I guess what I'm asking is, do you think he kind of shot himself in the foot making those public comments? And if he didn't, Tesla could be making cars right now.
So here's the thing about the initial shutdown that was interesting. We actually had some conflicting, directions coming from different levels of authority. We had, at that time when the initial shutdown happened, we had counties ordering shutdown before even the governor was getting there. So, Elon was looking at that and being like, no, I'm going to go by the governor's direction. And ultimately he settled with the county and shut down. Well, now when it comes time to reopen, the governor has given approval for non-essential manufacturing starting Friday. However, 6 counties in the Bay Area have chosen to continue their more stringent restrictions, and they may not allow non-essential manufacturing to return till the very end of May. And this gets a little bit complicated too, because there's other counties who said, okay, great, thanks for the guidance, Governor. We're going to get things back going and get the economy back going again. So obviously there's going to be some strife. Now, do I think Elon is directly suffering as a result of what he did before? No, because his company is not the only one who was deemed non-essential, who's not being allowed to return to manufacturing. There's plenty of others. Tesla's just in the spotlight because the brand and company that they are. And I did look at their statement. I did look at the town hall where they released it, and they said there's some unknown set of criteria that have to be met. They said Tesla hasn't met them yet. They didn't elaborate on Tesla what they haven't met or what the criteria is, just that they haven't given approval for Tesla to go forward as of this time.
Now, another thing that I did a video last week about, where I thought the tweet that he put out, about a week ago about the stock being too high, I thought, and I still think, that it will get him into some hot waters with SEC, as he is probably violating one of his settlement agreements. But since I have you here, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think he might get in trouble with SEC over that?
I stick what I said immediately in response to that on Twitter, which is there is no way this gets him removed from his position as CEO, and I don't expect him to get in any trouble from the SEC. And we're now a week plus whatever past it, by the way, and even the mainstream media has moved past this. They're not really seeing it either. But look, I looked at what the financial guys had to say, because initially my gears started turning, and I said, well, this does have to do with the stock. It's nothing material. He didn't release any news about any products. He just gave his opinion that he thought the share price was too high, which, by the way, I did too. And so did a lot of other people. And I also looked at it also and said, Elon's actually made comments like this in the past before as well on a couple occasions, both on Twitter and in interviews. But I looked into the SEC side of things, and effectively what the analysts are saying is, when it comes down to it, the SEC is really only interested when people are artificially pumping their stock. That means putting it out information to try and temporarily drive share price up so shareholders can make quick returns on profits. What Elon did here was the opposite. If anything, it hurt the company's share price. And I think it's relatively ambiguous to give an opinion like, I think the share price is too high, because it very well could be. It could not be. That, no, I don't see any way they come after him for this. I think they're going to hurt their reputation if they do. And I think if they were going to, we would have heard a comment from them already.
But before all of that, Elon had a baby, Mazel Tov. This is his first child with his partner Grimes. He has 5 other children. All of them are boys. He also taught us how to pronounce the weird name that they came up with, which I guess is XAsh-A12. Now, they won't be able to register it because it is illegal in the state of California, where the baby was born, to register names that either contain a number or a non-alphanumeric character. We learned how to pronounce baby's name during Elon's appearance at the Joe Rogan's podcast. This is his second appearance. I could barely recognize the guy without all the smoke around him, but it was actually pretty interesting. One of the things that came up is the fact that Tesla will probably be pushing the production of the Tesla second generation Roadster to 2022. Here's the part of the interview where Elon explained.
The things we're going to get done ahead of Roadster are, ramping up Model Y production. That'll be a great car. It is a great car. Getting the Berlin Gigafactory built, and also building Y, expanding the Shanghai factory, which is going great, get the Cybertruck, semi-truck, Roadster. Roadster's kind of like dessert. So, like, we gotta get the, meat and potatoes and greens and stuff.
But Roadster comes before Cybertruck.
I think we should do Cybertruck first before Roadster.
Now, here's an interesting fact. If instead of putting down the $250,000 for the Founder Series Roadster on the date of the unveiling, which was November 17th of 2017, you would take that money and invest it into the Tesla stock that day, today, you would have $650,000. That's enough for 2 Roadsters and a ludicrous Model S. Think about it. Elon's newborn baby, XAsh-A12, was not the only addition to Elon's wealth this week. 6-month market value average of $100 billion has triggered the vesting of the first of 12 chunks of options agreed upon as Elon's pay package back in 2018. Elon can now buy 1.69 million Tesla shares at the price of $350.02. Based on the closing price on Friday of $819.42, Elon's pure profit is almost $800 million. I should mention that Elon takes no salary, cash bonuses, or time-based equity. Everything is based on his performance. Last week, it was discovered by the Twitter user Green that Tesla has failed to wipe out the private information from the autopilot computers before throwing them away into the dumpster, specifically at the Santa Clara, California location, where I used to service my Tesla when I had one. It's unknown whether it was the Tesla employees or just people dumpster diving who obtained those units and then sold them on eBay, including the private information that was still on those computers that included unencrypted Wi-Fi passwords, the access to Netflix accounts, Spotify accounts, email, phone numbers, and so forth. Interestingly enough, one of the pieces of data you won't find on those hard drives is the login information for the Tesla accounts themselves. In the word of the modern-day philosopher Alanis Morissette, isn't it ironic? Don't you think? In other Tesla news, Tesla Model 3 was the most sold car in the UK. Not the most sold electric car, I mean the most sold car at 15% of the market share, when normally it is usually under 1%. Tesla also sold 1 millionth car, which happened to be a Model Y, which was manufactured on March 10th. Elon has also suggested that Tesla will add teleconferencing feature to some of its cars that have the driver-facing cameras like you find in Model 3 and Model Y. The best implementation of that feature that I've seen so far was in the Byton M-Byte that's going into production later this year. So if you're planning some Zoom meetings in your car, you better start wearing your pants there as well now. Lucid has tweeted out that they've added Middle East as one of the new locations where you will be able to buy the Lucid Air all-electric sedan when it goes in production next year. But it wasn't the news itself that got most of our attention. It was the picture that they put in a tweet, which appears to be the production version and the final design of the car, which they were supposed to unveil at the Geneva Auto Show, but never have, since the show got canceled. Now, the person who noticed this was the Inside EVs contributor and the contributor to this channel, Tom Moloughney. All right, Tom, well, kudos on some detective work, but can you walk us through and show us those subtle differences which made you believe this indeed is the production car?
Sure. So at first, if you look at it really quickly, it doesn't look like a different car. But if you take a close look, what I noticed first was, for some reason, the headlights just looked a little different to me. So I quick pulled up an image of the concept. And in the concept, there's 10 individual LED lights on each side that form the headlights. And in the production version, there was only 6. I thought it looked a little different. Then when I looked closer, I noticed the side view mirrors are definitely different. They're much bigger on the production version. Concepts usually have funky mirrors and things on the side, things that couldn't pass, regulation in production vehicles. So the mirrors are chunkier. And then the only other thing I really noticed, you've got to look close up on this one and enhance the picture a little. In the front grille on the bottom, you see a panel for the advanced driver assist system. That was not on the concept. So those 3 things together made me quite sure that this was a production version. Now, Lucid isn't like one of the major OEMs that might have a bunch of different versions of a car. They're a startup. They can't afford that. So it was concept and then production. So we're pretty sure, without getting 100% certification from Lucid, some of my feelers in the company have said, it looks like you might have stumbled onto something here.
Now, I personally love the fact that the design has not changed from about 3 years ago when I originally saw this car at the Monterey Car Week, when it was the only electric car presented at that event. Now, even though the design hasn't changed, the technology really has, and Peter Rollison, the CEO of Lucid Motors, made sure to drive that point home during our conversation as we were chilling on the back of that very concept car a few months ago.
So if you look at the difference, aesthetically, the betas will look very similar to the alphas, very similar to production intent, but there's a world of difference in terms of technology. Because let me tell you, the biggest single risk as a company that we bring out yesterday's car tomorrow.
The banging that you hear in the background is something that we haven't heard in a while. That was the actually factory machines making stuff as we were filming in the middle of their production floor. Last week, I reported that the Chinese automaker XPeng Motors will be exporting its all-electric SUV G3 to Europe, starting with Norway. Now, this week, BYD, one of the largest manufacturers and sellers of electric cars in the world, will be doing the same. Now, BYD will be entering the European market with its all-electric SUV Tang. It starts at about $38,000 in China, has an 83 kilowatt-hour battery that gets you an equivalent of 250 miles of the EPA range. It goes 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. But my favorite feature is something that I was able to check out in person when I saw it at the Monterey Car Week, which is the rotating monitor. You can go from the Model S mode to the Model 3 mode in just a few seconds. Also last week, BYD announced a new model which will be an all-electric sedan called Han. It will be sold in China. BYD doesn't sell any cars in the United States, but it does sell buses that they make here in California at the factory that I was lucky enough to visit just a few months ago.
So how do you put together an all-electric bus? Well, you see, when two buses love each other very, very much,
You can see that fun video in its entirety. It's on my channel, but for now, let's move on to the teardown of the Model Y by Sandy Monroe, which moved into a new stage now. Now that Sandy moved to the second Model Y that he's got in his shop, he noticed the same problem of the plastic cover that goes on top of some electronics in the front that also prevents the front from closing in some cases. He recommended that Tesla fix this problem right away. Now, Sandy is one of the contributors to this channel. As a matter of fact, he was here just a few days ago with his top 5 list of Model Y improvements over the Model 3. But here's a clip where Sandy explains one of the most unexpected and exciting moments of the entire series. There are a couple of things we're going to talk about that people have been raving about that they saw in your videos. And the first one, we should start with the whole window smashing thing with the bat, which we've all greatly enjoyed. But tell me a little bit, how did that come about? And, you know, did you enjoy actually doing it?
I always enjoy bashing something. It's part of my psyche. So anyway, yeah, actually, Corey Steuben, the guy who's the president of Monroe, he thought it'd be a good idea because it's kind of boring to talk about glass unless you smash something. And so my sordid youth, I knew a few guys that spent time on government vacations, and that was one of the things that they used to do, is smash glass and steal cars. So anyway, this when Corey thought, hey, why don't we smash the glass? They tried to find something that was similar to what Elon had done when he threw it at the Cybertruck. And I took one look at that and I said, forget it. We're going to do something better than that. So we had done an analysis on this oil water separator, and there's a bat. Well, the bat is long and it's made out of stainless steel. And I said, we're going to use this. And so anyway, we went through all the boring stuff, and then I said, watch this and smash, because I wanted to show the granulation of the, what happens with tempered glass. So yeah, it worked out good.
There is a report now claiming that unfortunately BMW will be axing the successor for the i8, which was supposed to be the BMW Vision M Next plug-in hybrid. Unfortunately, it's due to the budget that is very tight, just like for all manufacturers right now. The original i8 was discontinued last month. Karsten Breitfeld, who ran the BMW i program and brought the i8 into the world, is the former founder and CEO of Burton and the current CEO of Fairday Future. Here's what Karsten told me in one of our conversations about creating an electric car within a big legacy manufacturer.
If you look to big companies try to build everything into a perfect process. To some degree, this might sound a bit strange. They try to get independent from people. And if you build things into a process, it's not so important who is doing which part of the process. It's very stable and it can assure some quality, but it takes time, it costs a lot of money, and it prevents you from being fast and being innovative.
According to the Car and Driver magazine, the third electric car from Audi, the Q4e Tron, that was unveiled at the Geneva Auto Show about a year ago, will start at about $45,000 before the incentives. This is the first Audi based on the new Volkswagen MEB platform. It will launch 0 to 60 in about 6.3 seconds. It will have 82 kilowatt-hour battery, which will translate to about 250 EPA equivalent range. However, this model, just like many others, is pushed to 2021. If you thought that the Dieselgate was over, much like the testing equipment they were using, you too were wrong. Mercedes-Benz will be fined by the Korean government $63.4 million for the 12 diesel models that they've produced and sold between 2012 and 2018. That's right, 2018, that's 3 years after the original Dieselgate scandal. So they just kept making them. Porsche and Nissan had similar actions taken against them already. Porsche at $816,000 and Nissan at $734,000. You know that TV show Cheaters, you know, when they catch people cheating on each other? I wish that they had that for car manufacturers. I'd watch that. Would you? Put it in the comment section. Maybe we'll get that going. Thank you to all of my Patreons for supporting this show, especially during these times. If you want to become a part of my Patreon community, go to patreon.com/E4Electric. I also put that link in the description of this video. Looking forward to all of your comments. Other than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.